Yeah, so today being 6th of August, and as you know, from 15th of June, through September 2026, we set out to use our summer days for, these kind of studies where we want people to be able to upgrade their knowledge as far as blockchain is concerned and as far as Web3 is concerned. And that being said, what we are asking each and every individual, either on this call or probably watching the recording of this call, is to join us and then spend their summertime with us so that they will be able to, learn something. And of course, on top of that, we do have an initiative which is to, sponsor, some individuals out of these sessions that we are having to take their CBCA scholarship, CBCA course, and also take the exam so that they can actually have the certificate, right? So we have set out a couple of topics. Can you move to the next slide, Edufa? All right. So each and every day we want to remind ourselves why we meet on Thursdays, 5 p.m. UTC. It is simple. We have a mission that we are embarking on as WADA, as an entity, right? And the mission basically is to elevate underrepresented groups through the application of technology and also invest in a more equitable future. So, that is what always forces us to, come up on these calls every Thursday to have discussions and, think about how we can put Africa on the map. Can you go to the next slide, Edufa? And I believe over the past few weeks, we have done just justice to that as far as education is concerned. So today being, I guess we are now in week 7. Wow, already 7 weeks into these summer programs, and that is awesome. Out of 13 weeks, can you go back, Adifa? Thank you. So last week we did look at DeFi, NFTs, and real-world assets. I believe Genti, who was our moderator, was on the call to share with us some insights, especially in regards with Safo Chain. And then today we are also here to have our very own Alfred join us and moderate the session on the topic Web3 business models, which is how people actually make money in Web3, which is this. I mean, this is a very interesting topic, and I believe everybody here has an enormous amount of experience to share. So I'm hoping that this particular call is going to be very lively and very, engaging, right? So please don't let me down. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, we have our moderator here, Alfred. But before I go on to Alfred, I want somebody to volunteer to moderate next week's call, which is on the topic marketing and community growth in Web3. I'm going to put the topic in the topic in the chat. I don't know if Edifor can do that for me or Richmond can do that for me. And then whilst we are going about today's session, if you find interest in moderating next week's call, please let me know in the chat so that I can, secure your name down, and then hope that next week we will have a wonderful discussion. But yeah, that being said, let's go to today's moderator for the day, which is Alfred Itodole. Pardon me if I didn't mention your name right, but that's what I can read from. And Alfred is actually the hub lead for Zaria Hub, one of the hubs that participated in the hackathon series of events that happened in February in Nairobi. They did a great job, and we are happy to have Alfred here today to moderate this particular call. So Alfred, if you can hear me, please take up the microphone and then rock us through today's topic.
Yeah, thank you, Nana Safo, for the introduction. Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. So Edufa, you can pull off and then, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So for the session, according to the spreadsheets, we are supposed to take a course, which is the course is on MOBI framework for for business model. And taking that course, like it was today, because I haven't had time to go through it. So because as I said earlier, I've been very busy and juggling different engagements and projects. So but after going through it like an hour to this call, I was saying that it is something more in depth. It teaches like it's more like an education and like a university degree, whereby it teaches you, how to like go through the legal process, you go through the operational process of creating like of developing a business and creating a business model. So so I don't know if anyone here took the course, then obviously we'll discuss it. But the approach I'm taking is a different approach. I'm just going through what the business model is, like more of a crash course, more of like the simplified process. So once again, let me introduce myself. My name is Alfred Itodole, Zaria Hub lead, formerly known as Project Genius Hub, that participated in the CATS hackathon, one of Wada's bioregional hubs. And I'm currently in my final year, for my BSc program in Insurance, Faculty of Management Science, formerly known as Ahmadu Bello University Business School. So, yeah, since I have the business background, that was maybe one of the reasons why I overlooked it and didn't actually make time in taking it, because I was like, this is what they teach us in school. And so that is what my final year project is all about. So, yeah. So this is supposed to be a conversational thing. I'm just here as a moderator. I'm not giving a presentation on what business model is, because I know there are more advanced people, here more than me. So it's more like a conversation. So let's make it a conversation. Yeah. So before I go in depth into it, so the discussion is on business model. How do projects actually make money? And from when I saw the topic, I volunteered. I think it was like 4 weeks prior that I volunteered for this topic, because I'm really interested in this, because I was onboarded into Cardano, the Cardano ecosystem. The first thing I had to engage with was Project Catalyst, funding and grant and stuff. And I was like, and so during the process of like applying for funding, when funding is not come, we have to like go for the next round. I was like, man, this is not life. Like, this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable to me. Like, I need something that is sustainable, that it's a business. The business itself will make money, and not just the existence of going for applying for funding, just raising money. So that's why I volunteered for this. That okay, with the conventional and traditional business knowledge I have, let's see if we can apply it to Web3. So topic is on business model. So before we move on, do anyone want to say anything on what they understand by what a business model is? This is a question to the house. Anyone want to unmute and say anything on what business model is? Is anyone volunteering?
I'm actually expecting everybody to say something, because whether you like it or not, you have engaged in a business, either traditional or Web3. So please say something, all of you.
Okay, no one is saying anything. So let me just proceed, because I also have limited time. I have to leave here in the next less than 30 minutes. Okay, someone is raising up his hand. Yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Yeah, evening.
Hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Thank you so much. You asked a question regarding a business model, right?
Yes.
In connection with today's topic, which is centered on Web3 revenue model, right?
Yeah.
So a business model, obviously, from my understanding, is every business undertaking, the primary objective, or the objective number one, is to make profit as well as create wealth, right? So the business model is an arrangement or mechanism now that helps us to be able to create that value. For us to be able to make profit, we have to create value. And then we must also have a means of delivering that value to the customer so that we get revenue in exchange. So in a nutshell, that's what I would say. It's the value that we create and a way of delivering that value so that we can be able to generate the much needed revenue for the business. In a nutshell, that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that is basically it. That is basically it. Do anyone want to have a go at it also?
Well, maybe I'll just chime in. You know, I've been in this ecosystem for some time now, and I've seen businesses come up and fall down. And you know, most of them, when you go, when you go into the back end and try to analyze why they were not able to, succeed or survive for a longer period of time, you realize that right from the beginning, they thought they had a business model that could actually work. But when you dig deep dive into it, then you realize that they didn't have it right. So what it means is that they probably had the idea, but developing the idea into a sustainable solution is what a lot of people actually lack. So I would say, if I'm to define business model here, I would say it is just the ability to convert your idea into a sustainable solution that would actually last for more than people can actually think of, right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yeah, that is it. That is basically it. That is what a business model is. And I love how so I think your name, according to your name here, I can say institute. So
yeah,
the first person that
that's Frederick.
Okay. So, and I love how when Frederick was saying like he had to like define what a business is, I was glad because one of the issues that I had, when I was tired of book, my first and second year in school, the first thing you teach you in business management is like, what is a business? I was like, okay, I don't need this book anymore. Let me go out there and start experiencing things. When I went into the world, I was like, okay, this is not what was taught to us in school. Because according to the textbook, the definition of business is like this. One of the primary purpose of a business is to make profit. Like that was one of the reasons people create the business. And when you go out there in the world, you see people create business because of different reasons. Like most of them self, like you start to like really question that is the sole purpose of a business for profit. Because you see different reasons and people start talking about what is it called? Giving back to the community. People start talking about impact. People start talking about CSR, ecological impact. I was like, oh, you guys calm down. And this wasn't what I was taught. Because then, if the main purpose of understanding, like the primary purpose of a business is for profit, and everything you have been taught is on that foundation. How you design your business model. Then when you start getting to know that, okay, there's another reason for a business, like, okay, let's say to give impact, then it becomes complex, you designing the business model. So I was happy when you give that definition because that's also the definition I know. So yeah, in nutshell, like what's a business? Like a business is simply how does your organization create value? How does it create value? How does it deliver it to people? And how does it capture some of that value back to sustain itself? That's what a business model is. And this definition, like, understand this, like, when I came across this definition, then it was very easy for me to like, okay, since a business is not only for profit, then I cannot apply this definition into most of those things. Like, okay, let's say, for example, a community, a business that its main primary purpose is for impact, there's still a way whereby you can get back value. You can capture some of those values to sustain yourself without it not necessarily being a profit. It's not necessarily being a profit, because in normal business definition, according to the textbook, like, since business is for profit, your business model should be you capturing back profits. But even without capturing back profits, there's still value you can capture back that you can still sustain yourself. So the definition of a business model is just simply, how does your organization, how does it create value, deliver it to people, and capture some of that value back to sustain itself. So moving forward. So now let's talk about, why does a business model matter? And I think this is part that, like, we need to discuss this part, because most of us, this is where we now have to differentiate between what a business model is and what a funding model is, because most Web3, Web3 folks that I engage with don't seem to know the difference between these two. Like, there's a difference between a funding model and a difference between a business model. So let's look at what I have here on my slide. Firstly, you can have the best technology in the world, the most elegant smart contract, the most innovative protocol, and still fail if you don't have a sustainable, like a model for sustainability. And here's why. Firstly, grants and donations runs out. If the only income for your project or your idea or your organization or whatever you're engaged with, if the only model or your only strategy is to raise grants and donations, that is not really sustainable. It's not really sustainable, because it ends. That cycle ends. Let's take, for example, Project Catalyst. It's not like going at every funding round. The success rate is not certain. Anything can happen. Unless let's say you have high credibility, you have high credit score, you have good reputation, you are sure that if you apply for the funding round, like, people vote for you, you have networks to vote for you and get your funding. When you apply for these things, if that is the only strategy you have for raising, for sustaining yourself, it will surely end. It won't last forever. Like, that program, Project Catalyst, won't last forever. It will come to a point whether it pauses or it ends, or there's actually changes that currently affects you, that it will affects your probability or potential of actually getting revenue or getting resources from that particular scheme, to sustain yourself. So it's not really sustainable. And it happened this year when Project Catalyst came forward that they had to pause, and that affected a lot of people, businesses. Like, I can't say that is the majority of why some business had to close down, but at least I can, we can point one or two projects that was one of the reasons why they could not continue, or maybe they still continue, they still exist, but we are not really hearing about them because why? There's no funding from Project Catalyst. So I wish that project or that organization has another model of how it receives resources and values to sustain itself. Then that particular grant won't affect their normal day-to-day operations. So this is not different between a funding model and a business model. So grants and donation definitely runs out. It's not sustainable. A business model forces clarity. When you have to articulate who pays and why, you are forced to understand your user deeply. You can't hide behind fake words like, we are building for the community language. Who is the community? What do they need to so badly that they'll pay for? So this is another point that it forces your clarity, because if you should stop about I think 20%, I'm being moderate, 20% of projects on well-established projects. I'm not talking about upcoming projects, or well-established projects on Cardano currently. Who are your users and why would they actually pay? Most of them won't be able to fully articulate their what they are really doing. They won't be able to fully articulate it, because currently their funding scheme or their business model or their presentation slide was all built around the strategy of like, okay, let's present this to a grant program. We just have to tell them about the impact we are making, and how we are going to secure, how we're going to onboard the community and onboard more people to Cardano, and then that is how that slide or that presentation, that business model is currently structured towards. But if they are forced to go and engage with their real user, people that actually pay to use whatever they're building, it becomes hard. So if you are being forced, in that stage, like it will provide you more clarity on how we can now sit down and also like, oh, let me understand my users, and then, yeah, as noticed, I got a notification that someone raised his hand. Yeah, please go ahead.
It's me. I mean, I've had this question in mind for some time now, and it is about, even as you are running us through this, right? It's kind of pointing to the fact that business needs to convert into products so that people can actually consume it, and then it kind of fulfills the role of a model in here. But I mean, how do we then position the other entities or organizations who are not product focused? Probably their focus is mostly on community, like for instance, providing, well, we can say services, but then if it is not really product focused, then how do we position them, and how do we or how do they make sure that they have a model that can actually work for them as well?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. I think you went straight into the, okay, we understand what. Now let's move into the how. How do we do it? Yeah, and according to my slide, it seems we'll be jumping forward. So we can skip this part, and then, or we can just create a summary about this part and then move to that. So yeah, we'll answer your question in the next slide. That is good, right?
Yeah. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, another reasons why it matters is like, it attracts serious partners and investors. If your business actually has good numbers, you have recurring revenues, you have people that come back and pay subscriptions, you have people that actually paying, like it's going to attract the right partners and investors who want to invest more in your business also. And yeah, so let's move forward. So what are the building blocks of a business model? So yeah, again, the MOBI framework is something different. Like there's different school of thoughts when it comes to business model. There are different like philosophers or business leaders that have come up with different framework, but most of them still similar, and you will find this consistent theme within all of them, which is like, firstly, you have to know your value proposition. Like, what unique value do you provide? What pain point do you eliminate? Like, why should anyone care about what you are doing, what you are offering? So you have to know your value proposition. You have to know the customer segments, who are your users, who are your paying customers, and there might be different people. So you have to also know the revenue streams, like how does money come in? Is this one time? Is it recurring? Is it per transaction? Multiple stream? So you also have to know like the channels of distributions. You have to know, okay, how do you find your target audience? Like, how do you get to them? Is it word of mouth? Is it a website? Is it a virtual? Is it physical? You also have like look into your costs to deliver this value to your target audience, and also the key resources, and what are your key resources and activities? What do you need to deliver? People, tech partnership. What must you do every day? So, like, these are the 6 consistent theme that you find within different school of thoughts or approaches towards business model. Whether it's the business model canvas, which is the 9 blocks, like you have to look at your value proposition, you have to look at your partnership, you have to look at your channel, like more elaboration of this, or whether the MOBI framework or just a napkin sketch. So all these themes are central. This is what now like built, or now break out into different, detailed theories. So yeah, if anyone have anything to add to this, you can just simply raise up your hand. Or if anyone have a question, you can just simply raise up your hand. So yeah, moving forward. Yeah, I think I spoke about this before. Like business model versus funding model. Like funding model is simply like, how do you get money to start or stay alive? That's what a funding model is like. Okay, you have an idea, and for you to, that's like, you have an idea, for you to create that idea into value that someone can actually see something value in it and pay for, you have to go through a series of transformation. So funding model is like more like what you need to get started to transform that. So it's more like it's more like an head start. If you are playing a game, that kind of, let's say Subway Surf, you say kind of head start where it pushes you to forward, and get to a point that it's exhaust, and then you have to like use your skill to like to dodge those trains and jump. And so that's what a funding model is. More like an head start of how to like get you started and keep you alive for a little while, for a temporary while. When you figure out your business model. So, and you can get this through maybe grants, through token sales, ICO or IDOs. You can get that through investors, angel investors, through donation and sponsorship, and also government subsidies. But the problem with this, like, every one of these require you to like keep asking someone for money. You are dependent on someone else's decision. Funding is like, it's not revenue, it's more like a temporary lifetime. And yeah, I'm currently experiencing this also, as I introduced myself, I said that part of the executive, the student executive. And so part of our program, our symposium, we're trying to raise funding, and our strategy first of all is like, okay, well, we are the industry future employees, future industry future leaders. So let's just go to the industry and tell them, promise them CSR, speak to that CSR about their impact and everything, and they'll give us money. But so far it doesn't be good. Like for the past 3 months now, we have able to raise only 5% of our total budget that we need, and the program is in the next 20 days. So we have to like sit back and strategize and look at, okay, these guys are not really meeting what we expect. So we have to look for a way where we can raise money from them. So we have to switch from a funding model to a business model. So before, we are going to the industry and telling them that, okay, we are your children, like, okay, part of your CSR is to give back to the community. So this is like you investing in the students and giving back, and to like, you can put that as so most of these people are not buying this thing. So what we did instead was like, okay, first we actually started to like, we wrote to the company, we look at one of their major achievements they have done, and say that we are presenting them an award, we are nominating them for a particular award. And so part of our program is, we'll, like, prior to our program, it has a build up to our program. We'll be going to the streets to do interview about insurance, because I'm in insurance field, about insurance, and we'll go to secondary schools, and we will talk about insurance, and they bought into it. Do you know why? Because there's a value proposition we're offering to them. Because why? The insurance industry is facing a low penetration in the Nigerian markets, not even Nigeria, the whole of Africa market. The insurance industry is facing a low penetration. So instead of also going to them to beg for money, so we're offering them something in return. We're offering them that, okay, we'll help you to do marketing. So what we're speaking into, instead of speaking into that CSR program that is more of a grant, we're speaking into their marketing budgets instead. That's what we're speaking into. So if we go to them and tell them, okay, we are going, in fact, we're killing two birds with a stone, because going to a school and then we are writing is powered by, Leadway Insurance. That is also a CSR, because they're giving back to the community. And not only that, now they're not saying that reason why they'll give us money, because now there's not a marketing behind it. We'll create video, we'll create publicity, and so far, like, there have been good response. There have been good response so far. So we have to like switch into like from a funding model to more of a business model. Okay, we're offering you something in return. We're giving you a reason why you will pay to give us this money. So yeah, that's the difference. Moving forward. So now let's talk about types of model, types of business model. Ways you can raise money, ways you can capture more value back from your company, from the value you're offering. So there are many types, and so these are just the most mainstream one, the most used one in the current structure of the markets, or how I call it. This is consumer psychology. Which is like, firstly, is like the most traditional one, the most straightforward one. Less complex one is like product and services. Like this one is just direct sales. Make something, sell it, the simplest and oldest model. For example, a bakery, like a Nike shoe consulting firm, this you are making a direct sales for your services or your products. That's the direct sales. So another model is a subscription. These are charges, a recurring fee for ongoing access to products or services. Most of us, like, let's say, for example, this call is more recorded, and for it to be recorded, you have to have a premium account. You have a premium Gmail premium account, and this is a recurring fee that happens every month or every year, depending on which plan you go for. And also X. Like if you have a premium, like a blue tick on X, that's also like a subscription. You're subscribing for it. You also your Spotify. So you're subscribing for these things while receiving the service, the value proposition, like while receiving and the value that are given to you. So marketplace and platform. Yeah, marketplace and this model is like, I think, is more of the most used in the Web3 space. No, like not most used, I would say. I'll say currently the most successful in the Web3 space, which is like you connect buyers and sellers, you don't own the products, you just own the meeting points. And so, like in future, later in the slide where I'll explain how it connects to Web3 and why I think is the most successful so far in the Web3 space. So also freemium, you give the base products like for free, and then when you want a more premium service, you charge for it. That is what most SaaS of nowadays uses, like Spotify, LinkedIn, even X. That you can use the platform for free without paying for anything. Just register with your email and then start using it. But if you now want some upgraded services, you pay for it. And also advertising, offer a free service, then sell user attention to advertisers. Yeah, what Web3 is coming to solve. Web3 is coming to disrupt this particular business model. For platform owners selling our data without our consent, and we're not even participating in that revenue. So this is also a business model, advertising, and also licensing. Licensing your intellectual property to a third party. Yeah. I don't know if anyone have anything to add so far, or a question, or just have anything to say. No one. Okay, so we'll proceed. So in the previous business model we talked about, so there are two models that are mostly stand out for for ops and for Web3, for ops and Web3. So, and firstly, it's like subscription and membership. Subscription and membership. Subscription and membership is more like, as I said before, subscribing like monthly or annually, depending on the plan being offered, to actually have access to that particular service or to that particular value. Like this value is not being sold outright to you, but more of like, okay, they are like giving it to you for temporary access. As long as you are paying the required fee, so more of a subscription. So in that is mostly used in traditional sense, like Netflix charges 15 months for unlimited content. You can, while in Web3 version, Cardano-based projects could offer token-gated membership, maybe an NFT, to get access to a premium content too, or community. The subscription is buying and holding the token. So I think example of this is what is it called? Is it book.io, or I've forgotten the name of this these platforms that you can go learn and take content from it. could take courses on that platform. I don't know, can anyone remind me? Is it, I think it's from, from Giba Labs. I've forgotten the name of that platform. I'm coming, let me see if I can get it. Also, I'm trying to get the name of, okay, Adamio. Did I pronounce it to Adamio? Yeah. So, it's like, it's a learning platform. You can go there and take courses, but, to get access, you have to have a particular NFT, to get access to it. So now that is the revenue. That's the revenue stream to a revenue model, a business model to Adamio. So it's more like a membership fee, like a subscription. So, and also marketplace and platform too. Yeah. So you don't create the products, you just create the place where the products are exchanged, and network effect makes the Prisma protocol, like search and go in the platform business model, because it's it's a protocol. So most of the business models that work for a protocol are mostly platform-based models. As a whole, a blockchain as a whole is more like a platform-based model. Because most of the revenue transactions, it's coming from transactions, from like the transaction fees, it's going to the treasury. So that is more like a platform. I don't know how I'll explain that, but I don't know if anyone got it or anyone have a better way to put it. Let's make conversation now. So do anyone have anything to add? Okay, yeah, Frederick, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Alfred, for the presentation. Yeah, this is a very important, I think, subject to address, especially as innovators and developers. Yeah. Like you mentioned, we can have cool projects, cool innovations, but then if we are not, for example, kind of aware that why we are getting into business is to make profit and be sustainable. I think like Nana mentioned, then we'll be building innovations that will not go anywhere, right? Yeah, and that has been the trend. Okay, yeah. So this topic is quite deep, but it's good that we are having this conversation. How do we build sustainable business models? And then in this case, we are not just talking business models, but we are talking Web3 business models, right? We want to understand how can we create value and still remain profitable in the Web3 ecosystem. Yeah. So what I see also is that I think Web3 is revolutionary, right? Yeah, it's disrupting the way that we are doing things. Because even, for example, you see the models that you've shared, it is very possible that a business can have a hybrid of these models rather than just focusing on one, right? Yeah. And
Yes.
It will take this kind of conversation. And for me, I'm very passionate about capacity building, programs like this one, where we try to inform our people, educate our people. We try to inculcate a certain mindset, okay, that will move us as Africans from even just being business-minded, but becoming entrepreneurs, because these are two different things. Doing business and being an entrepreneur. These are very two different things. Yeah. An entrepreneur has got a different mindset. And it's even well if that mindset is actually also revolving around innovation. Because innovation will help you to, first of all, identify gaps in the local community, pain points, right?
Is my network 40?
And
Can
be
you hear
able
me?
to devise, you'll be able to devise a workable solution, a practical solution, real world solution. Okay? And it's that solution that becomes your business idea. Now, I'm very passionate about this subject. For your information, I work across the continent in trying to develop the entrepreneurship capacity in Africa. We have the resources, we have the challenges and the problems here that can help us to create solutions. Now, we are not creating solutions just for the sake of doing it. You mentioned you can create the same solution and yet do it as an NGO, if you like, right? Government too provides services, okay? They provide solutions to problems in the community, but they are not for profit. They are not for business. So government, the civil society, and us, the private sector, we are doing the same thing, but our objective is different. For us as entrepreneurs, we are in the market to make money. Not just making money, but making profit. So we have to understand, how do we make a profit? Is when our revenue side is always higher than our expenditure or our cost of running the business, right? And it's a holistic approach that we need to be looking at if we are going to build sustainable business models. In this case, Web3, because it's just evolving, right? I'll give a quick example. It's one thing, for example, to say, okay, I'm going to start chicken rearing. Then you just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to start with 100 chicks. How have you arrived at 100 chicks? Because you must understand that there are fixed costs that will be incurred, whether you have 100 chicks or 200 chicks or 300 chicks, you will incur the same fixed costs. So very important for an entrepreneur to understand, first of all, the break-even point. You must understand how many chicks do you need for you to recover the cost of investment before you start making a profit. So normally we just go in there and then you find that the business is not even sustainable because you started with little capital, right? Yeah. And then, you see, in entrepreneurship, it's a mindset. You don't need to have money for you to get started. Your starting point is that solution to the problem. That solution will attract investment or funding, like you put it. You've started attracting. I think I followed you, what you are saying. Okay. There are people with money out there. They are not entrepreneurs. They are looking for ways to, because if they keep their money, it loses value over time. That's why people invest money, is to compensate for the time value of money. Even banks, that's why they don't keep the money in the bank. They will lend it to you as an entrepreneur. so that you use it in your business. You create more value. By the time you pay back, you add interest. So you compensate for the time, what do you call that? The loss of value over time, right? So that's why we have to understand these models. How do we build models that will be able to attract investment? If the model proves that it's sustainable, there will always be investors. There are people with money, they are looking for investment. But it's a combination of things. Again, if you listen to most of these angel or venture capitalists, first of all, they invest in the team, right? Before they look at your product or your innovation, first of all, is who you are, your character, your resilience as an entrepreneur. Because it takes a certain kind of mindset for you to succeed, right? It's common knowledge that, small businesses, startups, over 90%, they are likely to fail in their first 1 to 3 years, right? But how do we navigate that? How do we improve the chances of surviving? Is by doing the homework before we get started. And I think a business plan also is very important, okay? Because a business plan will help you to address even questions regarding your model, whether it's sustainable or not. You'll be able to answer all the critical questions, okay, that affects your business. You'll be able to understand the length, the depth, the width of your business, the risks, right? The opportunities, okay, the strengths, the weaknesses about your business, such that even when the investors ask you a question, you'll be able to realistically address. You not sugarcoat. You say, okay, this is the risk. This is what we are trying to do to mitigate the risk. But every entrepreneur and investor understands that every business undertaking is a risk. No risk, no profit, right? Where there's no risk, you can't make a profit. But how do you tolerate or how do you navigate around risk? I think that's why we're discussing this model. So in a nutshell, this is a good presentation. And for Web3 innovation, I think it's possible to have a combination of these models that you've mentioned. So for now, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you. That was very, very, very insightful. That was very, very, very insightful. Yeah, and yeah, also and yeah, you're right. The revenue models or business model is also an innovation on its own. It's not only tech that gets to be innovated, and where we have no emerging technology. So even the business model, even the business is on its own can be innovative. So that is why, and for it's like subscription, like let's say years back or decades back was not a thing. Maybe the most prominent model there was like direct sales. With the development of new technologies and new way of thinking, and as a society, as an organism on our own, like new innovations come forward. So so even business model on its own can it can be innovative by combining different models that already existing models that and to come up with something that we can actually use to capture value and sustain the projects. Yeah, that was very insightful from you. Thanks for that contribution. So let's look at current mainstream models that are actually working. Something that is mostly prominent in the industry currently. So I have about 6 of them here. So which is like protocol and transaction fees. I think this is self-explanatory. All these DEXs that we use, all these DEXs protocol, like let's say Uniswap, MinSwap, those transactions we run, converting our ADA to USDT or converting it from any token any token, project token to like ADA, and then selling those transactions carries costs. So those are how those projects or protocol earn their own revenue. So that is how they capture their own value. So that's their business model. So our business model is like transaction fees. Another one is like Web3 SaaS. That is SaaS does also simply mean software as a service. So Web3 is software as a service and infrastructure. So the business model there is just selling tools, selling tools, API, and infrastructure to other builders. This is the sell the shovels, not the gold rush. So don't sell the infrastructure that other people build on, other people use. Let's take for example, Block First. That is Cardano API provider. There is the freemium, and there are other added services or other added value that it's only for premium. You have to pay to use it. You have to pay to use it. So that is the business model. Selling your software as a service directly. And also another business model here is like service and education consulting. Sorry. So you monetize your expertise directly. Smart contract development, security audits, blockchain. You monetize your expertise directly. And I think this business model, which will be a practical exercise we'll be having today in future slide, like how an hub on its own, like how we're talking about projects, but how can an organization, like say for example hubs, how can we create our own business model, as a hub lead? I'm actually not building any particular projects, that could use any of all these other business model, like protocol fees, SaaS, tokenization, gated access or membership. Okay, how could we still generate revenue even as not actually as a project? So also other business model is also like token utility. Your token isn't just a speculative access, it's key access to services. How I gave instance, like there are some okay, let's take for instance ADA for staking and governance on Cardano. That particular token is now a business model. Like ADA is a business model to Cardano on its own. Like the Cardano ecosystem is what is most time funding the treasury. You have to for example, to participate in governance, you have to have ADA. You have to have ADA to participate in governance. So, and also like Snake as a community member token. Okay, you have for it to be a community member, recognized community member, respected community member. You have to hold on to the token also. So that is another business model for a Web3 platform for Web3 projects, and also gated access and NFT membership. Yeah. This is also being used by book.io and Damio. And Damio, yes, use NFT or tokens as digital membership cards. Others get access to exclusive content, communities, events, or tools. The Web3 version of a membership model for any other things. And also reward assets tokenizations. Property, commodities. Like you have to take reward assets like property, commodities, invoices, carbon credits, put them on chain, and any fee on insurance, trading or management. So the example you're giving is Empower. I don't know more about it. We could look about in depth into it after this call. So yeah, moving forward. So these are the mainstream SIS business model. If you are thinking of building a project, you can look at this SIS model and think of how you could use them in your projects. Yeah, go ahead, Nana Safo.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw some light on what Empower is about. So Empower, they are known for developing affordable houses in Africa, and then helping people become homeowners themselves through rent. So that's what they are doing. So if you look at their business model, for instance, theirs is to develop the building, give it out to you as rent, and then whilst you are paying rent, you are in a way also paying for ownership of the house or the building in stipends. I mean in like broken pieces, right? So you don't have to pay outright, but you just have to pay or you just have to finance it, gradually. So that's kind of how Empower operates, and it's actually operating in Africa here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for educating us on that. Yeah, so moving forward. Those are a few projects and their business model. Let's see. MinSwap, MinSwap is decentralized exchange. It earns 0.3 on every token swap. Liquidity providers earn yield, and mint tokens used for governance. That is, classic marketplace plus tokenomics. This is an hybrid model that adding classic marketplace or platform-based model, and also tokenomics based model. They're charging their business model is protocol fees. And World Mobile also, telecom provider for unconnected communities in Africa. Revenue from mobile data and voice service, just like normal MTN, Ete, what they charge us, we pay to use their service. So their business model is also like services. Is it subscription? Yeah, paying for fee, yeah, fee. And also Block First and the meter. So that is also infrastructure as a service for Cardano developers. So that is software as a service. They are getting fees from using the API, and so that is how they capture value, and also empower that Nasa we just talk about. And then Book.io, tokenized ebooks and audiobooks on Cardano. Readers can actually can own your digital books. So how Book.io ends is actually minting those books. I think I remember when, I think it was African Blockchain Championship, when we were giving book on, there's one book, I've forgotten the book. It's one programming language like that in Iking. I think that was the name of the book, and it was shared to us through it was shared to us on chain. So we have to like download book.io, and mint it through that platform. So that is their own. So the book, you can totally own the digital copy of that book and it's totally be your own. So how book.io ends is not trying to send those books, but more of like from revenues from minting those books. And also it's a marketplace, so people can go and list their book there and sell it. And so that transaction also, there is a particular fee that they charge on that. So yeah, these are examples of business models that are actually working in the Cardano ecosystem currently. All I've said we should discuss on anyone that could add more, but we don't have time. So moving forward. So yeah, let's talk about business model for community organizations like ours, like Wada, and the Oblead. Like, what is business model that could work for us, since we're not actually let me say software projects that could actually be charging transaction fees, So how could we earn? So how we can earn, firstly, education and training service. Since we are already teaching people, we can charge for advanced workshop, certification prep, corporate training, free intro, then paid advance. That is, now we're using a premium model to apply education. So I put it like, okay, let's say Wada on its own, like Wada as an organization, this is a great initiative, and I'm sure participants have find it very insightful and learn a lot from it. So Wada could actually, build on this and turn it into something more formal that, could even develop a kind of an app whereby, sessions like this, where it's uploaded there, and maybe, let's see, anyone that, missed the session could actually go there and, to have access to it, you have to be a member, an officially recognized member of Wada organization to have access to content like this. And from that, to be a recognized member, you have a membership NFT. And maybe to meet the membership NFT, you have to have 50 ADA, 10 ADA, 100 ADA, something like that. So now we are actually this is actually a value. This a section is like it's value, and some others they might not find it valuable because maybe they feel they know this knowledge already and they know these things. Why the other people out there that, you know, find this actually valuable, that we don't know this knowledge, so it's useful to us. And, you know, and even at that, if we could say the content itself is not, you know, it's not valuable, we could say even the belonging of, you know, the belonging of, like, I want to belong to a organizations that, you know, engage in things like this, you know, that organize initiatives like this. That sense of belonging is value to someone. They are willing to, like, pay $100 for 100 ADA for, you know, 50 ADA for that. You can also, like, you know, that revenue can also be gotten from there. So now, organization that we actually not, you know, selling a particular product or anything, but we have also, like, able to come up with a way, it's a model to actually raise revenue from our core operations, our core activities. So yeah, that's one business model. And that one is technical service. If, you know, ops developers as op, and you know, and let's say, for instance, like, nowadays now with AI, it's very hard to trust like a lot of people that are claiming, you know, maybe they have type code one project, you know, before you know, they add it to their LinkedIn, add it to their CV, experience developer, build this, build that, why everything just AI slop, you know. So it's very hard to trust developers. So now, all of a sudden, reputation and recognition has now become an asset. Reputation and recognition have now become an asset, and most of the type of entity that has the advantage to fast track creating reputation and recognition are mostly organizations, are mostly community. So Wada as a whole, you know, could brand itself into offering these services, you know, whereby, you know, okay, you don't have to engage people directly, you just come engage with the brand recognition. We'll provide you, we know in depth, you know, we have trained people to become developers. So you come and, you know, maybe you create a kind of what is it called? Tiers for them of, like, okay, which type of developer, you know, experienced developer, this is the fee, this is the amount, and then so maybe a particular fee or a connection fee, you know, depending on how you want to model it. If you want to model that, okay, they're interacting directly with Wada, or we are connecting them to a developer that we trust and, you know, have good reputation. If they're connected directly with Wada, you know, we chat them, and then the up in depth, we already know amount we want to pay these people. Or if you want to do a kind of marketplace model whereby we're connecting them to developer, so through that transaction can charge connection fee from that. So as an organization, this is another way of also earning revenue, not depending on grants or sponsorship, or so our activities itself can be, you know, republished, like we structured into a scheme that a model that, you know, earns revenue. So local access as a service, community as a service too. Yeah. And I think Wada is already doing that. I think one of the business model that's currently working, Wada, is like this community as a service, you know, like hosting hackathons, and, you know, what's simply happening just like, okay, the community itself, like, okay, people find that valuable, and, you know, people that are sponsoring these hackathons, like let's say during the Cardano African Tech Summit, yeah, the money that comes from going to the hub to organize these activities, you know, it can be seen as a revenues for us, like Osaka team, you know, pay the reward prices. And so yeah, for local access markets, you know, the hub is the network. You know, companies and protocol need access to local communities, you know, for testing, for feedback, for user acquisition. You know, we are selling access and facilitation, you know, facilitating those processes, and also local expertise. So there also is a community as a service model. And then events and convening, yes, you know, meetup, hackathon, conferences, you know. What we're currently doing now, this is an event. So we're having a virtual event. So what we're currently doing now, it's like we are going to the transformation process of you know, creating a value, and this can be, you know, sold. You know, this can be presented to a client, to a target audience, that okay, we are experiencing doing this. We host like you know, educational conversation like this. So come pay for facilitation, or come partner with our community, and let's host something together. So that's also a business model for a community like ours, like a hub, like different hub. So yeah, before we move forward, do you not have anything to add to that? I'm sure everyone should have something. Like most people here are hub lead or part of the team in Wada. So anyone have anything to add? Can you still hear me or network? Don't tell me I'm talking to myself since. Hello?
No, you're not. You are talking to all of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move forward then. So now this is a practice. Let's practice together. So, and I want everyone to engage in this. So theory is good. I've talked about theory. So now let's practice. Let's take a real example and dissect their business model life together on this call. So, as we said before, business model is just simply, creation of value, transforming those value, presenting it to someone and then paying for it. So that's just simply like you create, you give, and you capture a little bit to sustain yourself. So let's look at, I think we should take Hub. I think we should use Hub as an example. How can Hub create a business model to sustain themselves? Yeah, I think that will be more relevant and personalized to us here. So, because most of us are already engaged, so we can't talk about businesses that most of us are not part of. It won't be practical. It will be theory. It will be like more of a classroom that where we're talking about billions of, like when we're doing accounting, we'll be doing billions of dollars. You have to carry over this. You have to like debit that, credit that. Money that I've not seen in my life. I didn't understand how this thing works. But well, you still have to follow the theory. So yeah, let's talk about ops. So now, what is the practice? Let's see. Yeah, okay, let's take an example for an Hub. So the practice here, the exercise here is like imagine a Wada Hub in Nairobi. Let's use in Nigeria. So imagine a Wada Hub in Nigeria, they run weekly meetups, have 12 active developer members, 40 plus community members, and good local connection. They have been funded, you already have funding that, it started your activities. So you are not looking for funding to get started. You have already gotten started. You have, build your community to some extent with grant money. And so that grant finally ended, just like our Catalyst ended. Now what? How can, the Hub create a business model that, they can still actively fund their operations? Let me take away this slide so we won't shit. So this is a conversation. Let's engage. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, I'll just say my piece. So a hub with 12 developers, 40 plus community members, right? That's yes. It's like gold mine in this ecosystem. Why am I saying that? Well, of course, it depends on, it also depends to some extent on, the capabilities of these developers. That is, are they just, some HTML, CSS developers, or they are actually Web3 developers who are able to, develop and integrate, these, these Bluetooth and what have you, right, into systems. If that is the kind of developers they have, then of course, I can say that they are sitting on a gold mine. Because in our ecosystem, it is very difficult to come across. And you mentioned earlier about the fact that reputation is now, something very serious in this ecosystem because of the emergence of AI. I remember, some time back when we were trying to create a platform. We're trying to create a platform. We had a business plan, and of course, we're going to use the marketplace model. So we're going to create a platform, and then the platform would facilitate the sale of plastic waste, right, from individuals and households to, these plastic recycling plants and companies, right? And we had to go to the market and find a developer who can actually develop it, because we're developing it for Web3, and we're trying to build it on Cardano, so it needed integration of, these Bluetooth smart contracts and what have you. And we got a Japanese who according to his CVs, looked like he could actually deliver on it. But this is where the reputation comes to play. And of course, it would have been useful if we had another platform that we could have actually used to also verify, this person's, capabilities before actually hiring them. But we didn't have anything like that, right? So we just went with word of mouth and then trusted the person, give the money to the person, and the person couldn't deliver what was supposed to be delivered. So at the end of the day, we couldn't bring this idea or business plan into fruition, right? So it means that this is like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, but even currently, it is still happening. We have people looking for startup basically looking for developers who could actually help them build uh, their products, but then they are not able to you know find some that they could actually trust and also have them deliver on what they are trying to do. So if you're a hub and you have these number of developers, right, and you have these community members also, it's simple. You just have to create, um, have these developers create a platform that would facilitate, people or other companies or startups, having access to developers to build their products for them. And then whatever fee they charge, you take a commission out of it, and then that becomes your revenue stream model, right? So that's why I'm saying that it's a gold mine. But of course, it also depends on how well of a vision the hub lead actually has, and also some of the other members also have, right? Because sometimes you don't necessarily need a hub lead to be able to initiate these innovative ideas, but then just the hub members discussing could actually bring it up, and then it goes from there. But I mean, if I was a hub lead, this is basically what I would do: create a platform and then put my developers on there, allow them to engage with, allow startups or companies to engage with them. And then once they have a contract, I take my percentage out of it or my commission out of it, and I use it to run my hub. And then that's what we do.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
So maybe could you
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
repeat your question? Could you repeat your question? What was your question?
Okay.
You
So
said,
the question was like,
yeah.
the question was like for instance, I know you're a hub lead. So in your hub lead, you run weekly meetups. You currently have active 12 developers in your hub, and you have 40 plus community active members. And you have good local connection in your hub, your bioregion. So you have been funded with Catalyst grants in the past, whereby you have used that funding to establish most of your operations and, let's say, some infrastructure to some level, but all of a sudden that grant ended. So now you need you need to sustain yourself. So what will you do? How would you raise revenue to keep sustain yourself? What business model will you use?
Okay, yeah. Although the network is very clear, but maybe just to give an attempt, if we have, and then we have developers, we have the community, and then we're trying to be sustainable, right? So I think it's why we're having this conversation. First of all, again, we are talking business here. We need to understand that the reason we go into business is to make money, nothing else. Okay? So grant funding, maybe it's just a way of giving you a push on the back, right? If anything, grant is not supposed to be part of the business model because the business is private. Okay? And businesses are owned by private individuals or private owners. A business is not an NGO. A business is not a government, institution. A business is not a club. A business is not an association. A business is owned by private individuals for the sole purpose of making profits. That's number one. So from inception, we must understand the business model, right? And how to generate revenue or attract capital. So when you talk about businesses, every business, no matter the size, is governed by the same accounting principle or concept, if you like. Assets will always be equal to capital plus liabilities, right? A business is a private undertaking. So the capital should always come from the owners of the business. First of all, that's why you have shareholders. They are the primary funders of the business. Now, that shareholding or funding does not need to be in cash. It can be skill, it can be expertise, it can be a laptop, it can be anything that will help the business. Okay? So when you gather together all these resources that each one of you has in the hub, the developers plus the community members, each one of you brings something of value to the table. That becomes part of the capital, right? And because you've brought it now to the business, again, there's a line between the business and the owners. We have to differentiate this. So the moment I contribute a laptop, it becomes an asset of the business. So we'll put value on my laptop, and then it will show how much capital contribution have I made, right? So we need to understand, these dynamics. Yes, grant funding is part of, developing the ecosystem, especially the startup ecosystem, so that we can be able to build the prototype, we can build the MVP before we become attractive to the investors on the outside, as it were, right? So when you have developers, I like the Wada model. Community first, before the technology. But in most cases, we put technology first. We build innovations without creating a real world, problem, without solving a real world problem. So if we start with the community, we identify the gaps, the pain points, and then we build a solution for that problem, already you have potential customers. And if you show the potential investors that, you see, this is the validation of this concept or this innovation is able to solve this, already there are these people, okay, who are being impacted. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, so if our solution is solving a problem in the community, we should be able to attract investors, because that's what business is about. Like I mentioned, there are people who are looking for investment. Okay? So as long as we have the developers and the community that is focused on solving the problems in the local community, that model will be able to attract investment, first of all, from we ourselves, because there's no way I can be part of the business without contributing anything to it. My capital can be skill, expertise, whether I'm a developer, I'm whatever, and marketing and what. We can equate that into value, and we put it in the books. So this is my contribution as capital. Now, that is capital from inside, but every business needs liabilities. So liabilities is money that comes from outside. You get money from investors that you're supposed to pay back, or you borrow money from the bank, or you get money in advance from the customer. That is a liability. So a combination of the capital contribution plus the liabilities will give you the assets for the business. Okay, so it's just a matter of understanding, these dynamics, and then you should be able to attract investment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Frederick. I think you touched on something very, very important. The core formula of in accounting, which is asset equals to like capital minus liability, or plus liability.
Yeah.
That is what assets is. So
and before I go, let me add this. We must build a culture of raising funding as Africans. You know that there's a lot of money on the continent, but it's not being channeled properly. Yeah, for example, do you know that there's $100 billion that comes into Africa every year from the diaspora in form of remittances, but almost all of it just goes into consumption. So can you imagine if we convinced our brothers in the diaspora to become part of the model where we channel this manifest into investment? Okay, we finance these business models before it goes into consumption to our relatives back home. That's one. Two, sitting with the African Development Bank and other partners, it has been discovered there are trillions of dollars on the continent in sovereign funds and pension funds sitting idle without being channeled into investment, right? So now, when we are building these startups, those shares that we create, they should not just be on paper. We should start exchanging the shares. Offload part of the business. There's no need to have 100% of the business without any value. We would say, okay, we'll give away 30% to outside investors. You calculate the shares, you do valuation, you put value per share. Then the investors, as they come, they'll start buying those shares. They become part of, the business itself. So those shares should not just be on paper. We should start implementing them. And as Africans, let's build a culture of buying shares. And I keep saying this, for experts, we may not have money now to pay you, but will you accept to give you shares so that you contribute your expertise to a business? Okay, it should work both ways, because in Africa, the experts want money upfront. They are charging a startup, okay, for legal fees or whatever, registration and things like that. But the startup is also looking for money. So can you accept the 1% shareholding on the startup so that you contribute your expertise? Okay, so that is a model we should start, I think, developing. Thank you.
And I think we are 7 minutes past our usual time, our usual 90 minutes. So maybe we would have to, Alfred, if you can hear me, we probably would have to, if we have to look at one more example and then maybe wrap it up, and then maybe next time we can continue or probably continue in the chat. I think that would be great.
Yeah, of course. I think, this can you hear me? My network is breaking. I cannot hear you guys clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So I think that is just it. I think we just have to look at this example and then round it up. So okay, for a Wada Hub, what I have here is ways we could raise revenue, like a business model is what are the values that an hub could create. One, developer talent pipe. 2, community education and onboarding. 3, local market knowledge, event convening, and translation within global Web3 and local needs. And so, what are the ways who could pay? Protocols wanting to expand to East Africa, could pay for developer talent pipeline. Companies needing Cardano developers, attendees for advanced or certified workshop, sponsor for meetup and hackathons, NGO needing blockchain pilots facilitated. So possible revenue streams are corporate training contracts, protocol partnership fee, hackathon sponsorship, consulting retainers for local market entry, premium workshop tickets. So these are possible ways for how a hub could create revenue. But I've also thought about this question even before this session, like how could I restructure the Genius Hub, like Zaria Hub, in a way whereby we have a sustainability model, a business model. And one thing I thought about was like, okay, I have to build. I wanted to use an infrastructure as a service model. This time I had not software infrastructure, but more of a physical infrastructure. I was like in a business environment, and most guys don't like going into schools, schools facility to use schools facility like library, like computer labs, and something. Mostly it's mostly crowded and it's not well managed because it's a public infrastructure, so it's not well managed, and most of the services outside the school are not close to the school. And even anyone that is close, or let's say even those ones that are available outside of the school, like off campus, are also kind of expensive to them. So I was thinking if I could invest, just go get a kind of a self-contained, that has a big parlor, has 3 rooms, like 3 rooms and self-contained, and turn that facility into the hub, create a hub that has a physical space whereby you buy solar, to get 24/7 light, and you buy Starlink to get strong network connection. And just having this facility alone, we attract people, we attract students. Just having the facility alone. So, and to get such a facility, obviously you can get that through grants. So beginning of like this year, after we came back from Nairobi, I started applying for grants. Like, man, I've applied for up like grants that I've applied so far this year is up to like, if I'm not exaggerating, it should be up to 100 already that I've applied for this year. Trying to get funding that I can actually build, like rent a physical space, and for able to, I know that okay, to run for the next 5 years, and then maybe after I leave, because I'm still schooling years, after I leave here and then move to where I'm settled down, maybe like in Abuja or go to Lagos, those facilities can still run it. But during for at least 5 years, that facility could now attract students. So once they attract students and students are in the same place, we also offer a kind of a training ground whereby we train people that maybe are interested in software development, are interested in any particular skills, even business skills. If you're interested in business development, like have a particular skills. And so from the moment, like the first 6 months or the first 1 year will be free. During this moment is the grant that is funding, that is subsidizing that access to you. So apart from from the second year, after people have seen the value and get attached and addicted to it, then you can now bring in a fee whereby okay, for you to use the internet, for you to have 24/7 lights, you actually need to pay. And obviously people are going to pay. Even from the first year, there are a lot of people that are telling me when I did my research that okay, if you can have this facility, we'll actually pay for it. And it's something I also be using myself. Means I also need these facilities. More like I'm gathering students together, okay, let's pay and to use this thing, whereby I'm done owning it. It's my name. So after 1 year, students to pay for these things and to sustain it by itself. So I don't need to rely more on grants. Students that are coming to use service themselves, the internet, the connection, and the conducive environment. Where you're in an environment of like-minded, you can get share idea with people, and you guys can come up with the projects together. People actually pay for it. So the fee from that could sustain itself. Like there's no profit from it, but at least the sustenance of that particular facility, will keep going at least for under 1 year or So during the process, there will be a kind of organic growth whereby people will invite more people. So also, and from there also, once you have people, like-minded gathered together, now projects can sprout up whereby you can maybe have like Thursday weekly founder sessions whereby, people that have different ideas can come speak and, stuff like that. And so the business model there also is like, okay, if there can be a particular equity, if the hub itself can own a particular equity for you building and developing your projects in this particular hub, maybe it's 1%, 2%, or whatever makes sense, at the amount of service or facility you are using from the hub, and so from there, more like a what is it called, incubator. You will also have invest a equity in your fee, and also this kind of as an hub also, whereby you can also go out there, to look for jobs for people, to use the hub name, use the brand name, and to get opportunities. You also link opportunities of people, and also we'll also get fee from that. These are things that I was thinking that, okay, even as an organization, like where I'm not actually selling a particular product, as a hub, I can actually look for ways to to get revenue that can sustain and grow the hub organically without relying on grants, because mostly what grants are good for for starting. Grants is not good. The moment you start telling grant that, oh, you have a revenue stream, grants won't want to fund you anymore, because you'll be like, no, most grants are for impact. Like, no, you're not having impact now, you're actually making profits, so you can't fund you anymore. So grants can start up the facility, the infrastructure, but then to keep it sustaining, like the sustainability, that was our thing that, okay, I think to introduce such models, and that is what I thought about, for how a hub as a whole, to get revenue. So that is my own input on the exercise. So I think I've talked more than, so we need to wrap up. So let's see. I think I'll just go to the end. So key takeaway for this session is a business model is not complicated. It answers 3 questions, what value do you create? How do you deliver that value to people? And how do you get paid? So everything else is like, it's inside these 3 details. What is the value you are creating? How do you deliver that value? And how are you getting paid, to sustain yourself? And funding does not equate to revenue. Grants keeps you alive, but business model keep you free. Build, you have like build for both, but know which is which. Know what a funding model does. For example, I narrated my own story of how I'm applying for grants, to get the infrastructure established, to get it started, and to sustain it. Whereby I know that when it gets to a point, grants won't be able to fund it anymore. So how the operation itself can generate revenue to sustain itself. So you have to know which is which. What is a funding model and what is your revenue model? So, and Web3 did not invent any model. It just upgraded old one, which is like subscription model, freemium, market platform-based model, fees, direct sales. It's like Web3 did not invent most of those models. So if you are building a Web3 project or anything Web3, just go and research about conventional or traditional business model, right? And then look for a way to innovate with it. Apply, look at your target audience, your market demographic, understand how you can get to them, and how they can pay for what you're offering, and how you can lock down some of those values. So, and most of these things, as Alfred said, it can be hybrid. You have to like add a lot of models together, a lot of different models together, to come up with your own strategy for business model. So your hub already creates value. You just need a way to lock down those values. You just need a way to like turn it into a revenue generating machine. Like like for example, most of those values: education, developer, talent, local network, event convenience. So all these are valuable, and that people ready to pay for these things. There are people that are looking for these things. Like when I went deeply into the grants field, the grant ecosystem, I was seeing a lot of things that I wish I knew. Like 2 years or 1 year back, my hub journey, I could have structured it in a total, like if I could go back, I'll totally go back and structure it in a totally different way. Like most of those revenues, or most of those funding, or most of those stipend that came in there, is like the way I spent it, I will have spent in a whole different way, to structure it and make the hub presentable in a way whereby you can use to secure funding, to establish this, and then sell this, those values to people, and generate revenue. So, like, cause Hub on its own generate revenue, not services, not software, not actual products. Create even a human community, like, has its value, it generates value. So you just need to be able to package it, have a business model, have a strategy to turn it into a revenue generating machine. Yeah, and stack your models. Don't rely on one stream. Combine free community plus paid services plus partnership plus dev work. Diversify the income. Yeah, I think that is the the end of my session. So yeah, Nana Safo can close it up now. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing these insights with us. I believe we've all been able to learn it. Personally for me, what I'm taking out of this call is the fact that even what Alfred did today, which is moderating this call or moderating this particular discussion, is also in itself a business model that as an individual you can take and then polish it, and then it becomes a lifesaver for you in terms of earning revenue to be able to live your life freely. Thanks everybody, and do have a lovely weekend leading up to your week. Have a lovely evening leading up to your weekend. Yeah. Bye bye.